This talk is about basic principles of Brit-Am, concerning Brit-Am, concerning us. We believe the lost 10 tribes are amongst Western nations, and that they are a majority in many places, in many areas, and that they, through the Western nations, have fulfilled the destiny that prophecy spoke of them having, that they will have. And they fulfilled it to some degree, and they have a role to play in the future Messianic age. And they are descended from Israel. They are Israelites. They have Judah, and the Jews are also descended from Israel. The Jews are descended from Israel, from the section of Judah, which the 10 tribes were mainly from the other section. The 10 tribes, they were from Joseph, so associated with Joseph, headed by Joseph. And so we will discuss this and its implications. In Isaiah 42:6 it says, "The Lord has called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people." Also, may also be written in the plural, to the covenant to the peoples, even though it's written in the singular, to a Brit-Am, a plurality. And then it says a light to the Gentiles, so the Brit-Am will be a light to the Gentiles. In Hebrew it's Brit-Am. Brit means covenant, and Am means people. That was in Isaiah 42:6. Also we have in Isaiah 49:8. It says, "Thus says the Lord, in an acceptable time I have heard you, and in the day of salvation I have helped you. I will preserve you and give you as a covenant to the people, to restore the earth, to cause them to inherit the desolate heritages." In both cases, the term covenant of the people, Brit-Am, refers to the lost 10 tribes in their places of exile. Brit-Am, the term Brit-Am, literally Brit is a covenant, Am is people, and Brit-Am may also be viewed as referring to Britain and America, and this was first suggested to us by our friend Cecil Davis, who has since passed away, but he was a friend of ours, and he was a strong supporter of Brit-Am. And he pointed out that Brit-Am can also represent both Britain and America together. And these two peoples, Britain and the USA, represent the nations of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. They will become the main protagonists, the main actives, the major active parties to which the prophecies about Israel would come to fruition. Rabbi Moshe David Valley tells us that Joseph, representing the 10 tribes, was lost and assimilated in order to redeem mankind by elevating them from inside as a Gentile, like them. Rabbi Moshe David Valley lived in 1697 to 1776. It was about the time of the American independence, and he lived in Italy. And he was important. He was an important rabbi in Padua, and he had quite a few valuable insights concerning the 10 tribes. And he says, "It is a known matter that Israel," that is the 10 tribes according to the context, he's speaking of the 10 tribes, Israel, "did not descend into the realms of pollution, of impurity, other than for the need to clarify his destiny. He needed to fulfill the will of God and reform the world through redirecting its forces. When this is done, they shall return to their source. There will be no need to remain in that situation anymore." This is the meaning of Ephraim. Ephraim representing all of the 10 tribes in this case. Ephraim shall say, "What have I any more to do with idols?" in Hosea 14:8. So this is what we have. We had the 10 tribes, the people of Israel were 12 tribes, and they divided into 2 sections. So the section of Judah, dominated by the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, and after that with most of the tribe of Levi and representative minorities of the rest of the tribes. They gave rise to the present-day Jewish people. And apart from them, you also had the 10 tribes who were separate from them, headed by the tribe of Joseph, who separated themselves from Judah. And they set up their own kingdom and their own religion and became entirely different from the Jews. And they were taken away by the Assyrians, and they're taken to different areas, or gravitated to different areas, moved to the forces directing them to the west, to Western Europe, and became Western Europeans, or part of them. And they helped develop Western Europe. They helped make Western Europe, especially the English-speaking peoples, to be the power for progress that they did become. At least they made them become what they were, what they did, what they had to become, and this is what they have done. It was in order to correct mankind, to guide mankind along an upward path. This is what they have done. Isaiah 42:6, where it says, I will keep and give you as a covenant to the peoples, a covenant to the Gentiles, see Brit-Am, referring to the future Messiah, also refers to the future Messiah, in order that the rectification of the world and of the Gentiles should be completed through them. That is what Israel had to do, to complete the rectification and the correction of the Israelites. That is of the 10 tribes. God has called Israel in righteousness to become a Brit-Am, covenant of the people and a light to the Gentiles. So Isaiah says in 42:6, Isaiah says, I, Lord, have called you in righteousness, and will hold you a hand, and will keep you, give you for the covenant of the people, for the light to the Gentiles. That is a Brit-Am covenant for the people. In Hebrew is a Brit-Am. The Welsh refer to Britain, Brit-Am, or Bliss of Britain. Brit in Hebrew means covenant. Also, in the Middle Ages of Britain, the area, the geographical area was Britain, was sometimes referred to as Brit-Amia. That is Brit-Am. Also, the Midrash says that the term Brit-Am refers to Israel, the places of exile. And that's why we chose the name Brit-Am for our organisation. Brit-Am represents the 10 tribes returning. Also, it hints at Britain, from whom many of those to whom we direct our message descend. It also hints at Britain and America together, and Britain and America are the major forces behind the 10 tribes, and they're the major nations behind them. And they are the people who supply us with most of our support and our audience, at least at this stage. So this name also applies to them, Brit-Am. Also, there's a midrash, or several midrashim talking about the 10 tribes, and they quote these verses in Isaiah 49. And it says that you say to the prisoners, go forth, to them that are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pasture shall be in all high places, in Isaiah 49:9. And several midrashim speak on this. Rabbi Barachi and Rabbi Helbo, and then Rabbi Shmuel Be'ayat Nachman said, the 3 places was Israel exiled as the 10 tribes, one to beyond the Sambatian River, one to Daphne of Antiochia, and one to where the clouds came down and covered them. And we were shown that these are geographical areas, known geographical areas in which exiles from Assyria were settled by the Assyrians or moved there shortly afterwards. And from them came the Western peoples. And the Midrash is also confirming that the verses that speak of a Brit-Am and everything around them in Isaiah 49 are referring to the 10 tribes. One of the places where the 10 tribes was said to be is the river Sabbath, also known as Sambation, usually applied to an area at first by the Caspian Sea, then later to the Danube and the Don rivers, especially the Don River, was known as the River of Sabbath. Sabbath is another form of the word Sambat. Sambat is another form of the word Sabbath. And from this area came the Khuzars who converted to Judaism and reattached themselves to Judah. Also from this area came a section of the Scythians who eventually moved to the west and settled in the island of Britain. And the Romans had a legend, had a tradition that Saturn was the god of Israel, according to some Roman sources. Equated Saturn with the god of Israel. Others equated Saturn with Israel, and also with the day of Shabbos, Saturdays, because Saturday is the name for the Shabbat in English. And it was said that Saturn had left his area in the east and gone to settle in an island in Britain. And we also have legends from the Arabs who said the same thing, that Ad, the brother of Hugh represented Judah, and Ad was his brother who had been driven away and driven out and had gone to live in the islands of the Blessed, meaning the British Isles. So we have these sources saying the same thing once you understand them correctly in their correct context. And there are other sources all associated with this. We have an article on it, hundreds of different sources that all tend to point in the same direction. The Tudor Rose. The Tudor Rose is associated with the House of Tudor, who ruled over England. In the years between 1450 to 1485, there were civil wars known as the Wars of the Roses. The rival houses of York and Lancaster. Each side was represented by a rose. York had a white rose and Lancaster a red one. At the end of the struggle, Henry VII, the father of Henry VII, Henry Tudor, became the King of England. And he chose to unify the two roses, and he put them together and made them one. And also they bred, you can see pictures, ancient pictures from that period. They managed somehow or other to breed a type of rose, some of whose petals were red and some of whose were white or off-white. So that is interesting. And the rose that Henry chose had both red and white petals, and a large white rose with a smaller red rose inside of it, and 5 green leaves around it. And he had 10 petals, like 5 were red, 5 white, and then 5 green leaves around it. There are 10 petals for this rose, and that could reflect that this rose was the area of England which was the placement of the 10 tribes in that time. Because the Zohar first appeared, or was first known to history sometime in the 1200s. It claims to have been written down in the 300s, 400 CE. It definitely has ancient material dating back to that area. But there are those who claim that it was edited, it was upgraded, it was rewritten, maybe additional insertions were made up until the time it was revealed. That are claims that are worth knowing that they exist. They may not be so, but that is what they say. Many religious Jews consider the Zohar to be inspired work. But you don't have to believe it. Well, what I mean, you don't have to believe it. You have to believe in the Bible. You have to believe that the Bible is inspired. It's given by God. The Torah was given by God. And the rest of the prophets are also inspired and given by God. So you have to believe in them. But the Zohar, you don't have to believe in. That is, you should believe in whatever is true, you should believe in. And whatever is positive, you should also give it a certain degree of credence. But if, as a result of reading or research or investigation, you decide that the Zohar is not inspired, you can say so, you don't have to accept it. But tribes when they return, and how the Jews at first will be loath, they will not be reluctant to accept the 10 tribes when they return, but in the end they will. It's worth noting it has been prophesied that the Jews will not want to accept them, and we can, so that is understandable. It's a reality. It's human nature. So we should also be aware of this. As we said, the Jews comprise the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and representative minorities of the other tribes, the 10 tribes. On the other hand, they comprise the tribes of Joseph, that is Ephraim and Manasseh, Reuben, Simeon, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, along with some descendants of Judah and some descendants of Levi and of descendants of Jethro and descendants of Moses and others. Other groups, large or small, who also attach themselves to the 10 tribes in their places of exile, and who will return to them, as prophesied by in the prophecy of Balaam, in the book of Numbers that we spoke of not long ago.